All right, good morning. Today we are going to begin surface area of cylinders. You will need your notes packet, your pink notes packet, which is where your homework was. You needed to submit assignment 124, which is page 5 and 6 in your packet, over surface area of rectangular prisms. Today we will begin cylinders. There is a challenge question that I'm having the class do. We're going to just talk through it in a moment because I think it's worthwhile. And end of quarter is Friday. Make sure you get your late work in by Friday. So as we look at this one, it says select all expressions that are equivalent to negative 72x plus 60. And so we have to use the distributive property. And what I would recommend that you do is go to each and every one of them. And that's what I did, is I took each answer choice and then I reworked them just to make sure. And the correct answer is A and C in this case, but on A we're distributing negative 12, and negative times a positive gives me a negative, and then negative times a negative gives me a positive, and so that's why we get negative 72x plus 60. As you notice here, you have a negative negative, which is going to give you positive 72, and we need negative 72. Once again, we have positive and a negative, signs are diff, so we get negative 72. So those are the two that actually make sense, and we double check this and we see positive times positive gives me positive 60. So those are the two answer choices. And remember, when you guys are doing these on test, make sure you're reading those directions. So this one says select all that apply, so don't just find one answer that works and then circle it immediately. You got to test all of the answers. We're going to go over page 5 and 6. So as we look at page 5 and 6, examples that you might paint or use surface area. Painting a room would be an example. Now, sometimes you don't paint the floor, you don't paint the ceiling, but you would be painting lateral faces. Maybe wrapping a present would be an example. Making a box, things like that. So 2, 3, and 4 are meant to get you thinking about this formula right up here, which is the formula that we use for rectangular prisms. And so if you notice, the length and the width is face A, which is the front face, and it is 24. If we trace it, it's 24 square inches. If we look at face B, okay, face B was this top and the bottom, and it was, once again, the length and the width. So I guess that one matches up with the length and the width, and so that would be the top and the bottom, and then you have face C, which is here on the side, which is 3 and 4, which is 12. And as you notice, we have 3 different sections. So those are the 3 faces, but there are 2 identical faces to each, so you need them in there twice. And so that's why we have in our formula times 2. So you can add all of those together. You could add all 3 of these together and then multiply by 2, and you'd get 108. Or you can do, as the answer key had, 24 plus 24, 18 plus 18, and 12 and 12. Now, as we look at the answers to the homework, you could have done the same thing to numbers 6 and 7. You could have found the area of the front face, and then that's the same as the back. You could do the area of the top and the bottom. So if you would have labeled like front and back, front would have been 5 times 3, which is this part right here. And then you would have had 2 15s. And then you could have also looked at the top and the bottom. Well, that would have been 5 and 4. And 5 and 4 would be this section right here. And then you could have done your side, which is 3 and 4, which is this right here in your formula. Now, honestly, I think the easier way to do it is just to label your length, your width, and your height. And every time I see an L, I'm going to put in 5. Every time I see a W, I'm going to put in 4. And every time I see H, I'm going to put in a 3. And then remember, you have to multiply first. Then we're going to add everything on the inside. Then we finish by multiplying by 2 at the end. And don't forget, it is area, so it is square units, because you're covering the outside of the shape with square units. So our length is 3, our width is 6, and our height is 7. And we get a total surface area of 162 inches squared for number 7. And you can kind of pause at any time and look back closer at these. Now on these, since they gave you a net, you could literally just, they wrote it out on the answer key here. You could have, you could have taken and multiplied right there, and that would have given you for this box 22 and 9400ths, which would be the front and the back, but that would be the same as these two. So you'd have both of those listed. And then as you look, you have the 3.1 and the 5. 3.1 and the 5 would give me 15.5, and that would also be the same, and that would be the right side and the left side. And then you have that top and bottom section right there. That would be 7.4 and 5, and 7.4 and 5 is going to give you 37, which would also be the same as this one. And so you could kind of just use that as a frame of reference. You also, if you notice, you have all of these 3.1s. Those are all the same. And then you have 5 and 5 listed more than once. And then you have 7.4 listed once here. So really what you could do is you just label, and it really truly does not matter. That this could be my length, this 5 could be my width, and the H can be 3.1, and then use the formula. Now, it really truly wouldn't matter which you called which, because remember with the rectangular prism you can turn it and it's still going to be the same. But you now can use all three. You would use those three numbers and plug them into the formula. And so for number 8, you get 150 and 8800 centimeters squared, and for number 9, you get 160 centimeters squared. In the future, you can, we had decimals on number 8. You could expect fractions and have to do some multiplication with fractions. Number 10, you were just given the dimensions. You needed to recognize a couple of things. It did not tell you specifically that you were finding surface area, okay? But you need to think about, I'm wrapping a gift, and so that's covering the shape, and that would indicate surface area. It's going to be a little harder when we get to the test when we have volume. You have to decipher, am I filling the box or am I covering the box? And so in this case, it is surface area, so I'm going to write the formula. And then, as you can see, we labeled what we called length, width, and height, and then plugged them in, and you get 448 inches squared, and that would cover all 6 with no overlap, okay? Number 11 is a little bit trickier, and so you can do it in 2 ways. So I'm going to cover up that other one and take a look at this. So you're going to frost the cake, but what you're not going to frost is the bottom. And since you're not frosting the bottom, when you frost a cake, you have to do so one way of doing it is just to look at the front and the back, the left and the right, and then the top only, and then add them all up, and that's how you get to 249. If you're using the formula, what you need to recognize is this would be the total surface area with everything, 366. So if you had 366, you tried to frost the bottom. So if you were doing that and you couldn't recognize, you just need to kind of imagine tracing the bottom, and that is 13 by 9, which is 117. So I had to take away the 117, and that's where we get the 249. So either way, you can kind of use the formula and then take away, or you can just break it down by each shape and go from there. All right, today we're going to talk about surface area of cylinders. So you need to go to page 4. So we kind of turn back, go to page 4. It was the back of our, obviously, page 3 notes, which was the surface area of prisms. All right, now for a cylinder, what we need to notice is there's a couple of things. Number 1, we've drawn the net before, and so you notice that you have 2 circles at the top. Now, we know the area formula for a circle, which is rather easy. So we know that the area formula for a circle is pi r squared. And you have 2 identical circles. So what I want you to recognize is there is a formula for surface area of a cylinder. And this 2 pi r squared, well, pi r squared is 1 circle, but I have 2 identical circles, so that's why it becomes 2 pi r squared, because we have 2 identical circles. Now, the hard part is this lateral face. This lateral face, if you think about it, if you ever unroll, okay, if you unroll, the label on a 2-liter bottle, or on a Coke or a soda, it will create a rectangle, okay? And the height of that rectangle is the height of the actual prism, or the cylinder. Now, the hard part is this length, okay, that is the bottom. Now, what happens is that goes all the way around a circle. Well, going all the way around a circle is circumference. Well, circumference, once again, is 2 pi r. Well, area of a rectangle is pi, or is length times width, or base times height. And so what has to happen is you have to do the circumference of the circle, which would be the base of that rectangle, times its height. Well, that's this. So that is the lateral face. That's the rectangle. So this is our rectangle. This is our two circles in our formula. Now, the nice thing is you have the formula given to you, so you're going to just be able to apply it and use it. So as we look at this first question, even though this cylinder is laying on its side, this 14 would be my height. Remember, with a circle, when you go from the center to the edge, that would be your radius. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to write surface area equals, and we're going to copy the formula down exactly as it is, 2 pi r h, okay, plus 2 pi r squared. And just as we did yesterday, we are going to plug in the numbers that we have and know. Now, I'm going to save us a slight amount of time. Well, not to confuse you, we can just go ahead and put in 3.14. This is what we're going to use. Our radius is 6. Our height is 14. I'm going to bring down my plus sign. We're going to have 2. We're going to put 3.14. And then we're going to go radius squared, which is 6 squared. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have all of this multiplication, and we have all of this multiplication, and it is separated by addition. So I'm going to do all my multiplication first. So if I look at this first part here and multiply, I'm going to have 2 times 3.14 times 6 times 14, and you're going to get 527 and 52 hundredths. And now we're going to go here, and before I do that, I need to remember that this is really 6 times 6, which is 36. So I'm going to plug in 36 for that. So I'm going to go 2 times 3.14 times 36, and that's going to give me 226 and 8 hundredths. Now I'm going to add those amounts together to get a total of, all right, 753 and 6/10 centimeters squared. All right, so once again, just so you guys are understanding, this part right here is circumference of a circle, and so this is that's our rectangle. It's the circumference of the circle times the height. That's the rectangle in the net, and this is our two circles. So you see pi r squared? Well, those are the two circles. So you're finding the rectangle and you're adding the two circles to it. Next, we're going to do a same type of question, just slightly different. So we're going to go ahead and write surface area is, and we're going to copy it down, 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. Now we go ahead and we look at our picture, and up in our picture we see 5, and 5 would be the height. Now we have 8, and 8 goes all the way across. So 8 would be our diameter, and remember, if you think of your arm, your radius is half of your diameter, so the radius would be 4. So now that we have that information, we can go ahead and plug in what we know. So 2. Now we can leave the pi symbol as pi symbol, and I normally like to do that. I don't want to confuse people today, so I'm going to put it as 3.14 because I think that makes it easiest for most. And we're going to put a plus, and then we're going to go ahead and bring our 2 down, and we'll go 3.14, and now we're going to go radius, which is 4 squared. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do all that multiplying. We're going to do all that multiplying, and then we will bring it together with addition. So we're going to go ahead and take our calculator once again, and we're going to go 2 times 3.14 times 4 times 5, and we get 125 and 6/10. We're now going to look here and remember exponents first. Well, that really is 16. Okay, that's 4 times 4. And so we're going to do 2 times 3.14 times 16. Or you could just type it in as 2 times 3.14 times 4 times 4. And we get 148 hundredths. And that's going to give us a total surface area of, and so we're going to add those two amounts together, 125.6, and we get 226 and 8 hundredths, and once again, feet squared on that one. Now the last question is a little bit tricky. It says, how much paper does DeFigio need to label the soup can below? And so notice we only want the label. And so if you're looking at the picture, we're only wanting that kind of goofy part, which if we unroll it is the rectangle. Okay, what we don't want is the circle. So what I'm going to go ahead and write is, okay, I'm going to write the formula. So we have surface area is 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared. Now, if you understand what this formula is saying, once again, pi r squared is one circle, so 2 pi r squared are the two circles. Well, in this case, we don't want any of the circles. We only want the lateral face, which would be this part, the rectangle. So we only need this part of the formula. So if that's the case, what we're going to do is we're going to just use the information that we have. We're going to bring down our 2. We're going to bring down 3.14. And we're going to find that 2 happens to be our r. If we look at the picture, 5.5 would be the height. So our radius is 2, and our height is 5.5. And now we're going to go ahead and just take our calculator and we're going to multiply. So it goes 2 times 3.14 times 2 times 5.5, and we get 69 and 8 hundredths inches squared is our answer for this, okay? And so you need to recognize what they're asking you for, and what part of that formula you need. And the most important part is that you're just kind of copying it down. You're also going to be reading the directions and making sure that if it says use 3.14 for pi, you're going to use 3.14. If it does say round, then they're asking you to probably use the pi button on a scientific calculator, which some of you don't have access to unless you're using your Desmos calculator. So your homework is actually in your packet once again. You're going to do page 6 and 7. You have 10 questions to try. You don't have to sketch out the net necessarily, but it's a good idea for you to kind of sketch it out. So on these first 3, it says sketch your net. Notice you have your formula up here. You have your formula on the back, so you don't have to flip over. But notice on this first ones, you're looking for the surface area. The next 4, you're finding the surface area. Notice the directions say round to the nearest tenth on all of these. Now, on the back, this is where it's important. Notice it says find the lateral surface area. So you need to be thinking about how am I going to adapt that formula so that I can figure out what surface I need. So you have 10 questions. Have a great day.